The city was still draped in early light when you woke to the sound of his voice, calm, clipped, and authoritative. He was already dressed, his reflection sharp in the mirror as he spoke into his Bluetooth earpiece. Push the meeting to 9 and tell the design team I don't want excuses this time. His tone was precise, the kind that could silence a room. He sat up slowly, clutching the edge of the silk sheet. The scent of his calling lingered in the air, woody, expensive, and distant. Even that carried power. He didn't look at you, not once. You watched him fix his cufflinks, each movement deliberate. There was no softness in the way he adjusted his tie, no pause that acknowledged the women watching him from the bed, his wife. You're leaving early again. He didn't respond, just switched calls. His voice shifted from command to calm charm as he addressed someone else. That tone, the one you hadn't heard directed at you in months. When he finally ended the call, silence settled. You stood stepping closer, holding out his wristwatch. He glanced at you briefly, eyes unreadable. You don't need to play the perfect Wi Fi. I can manage my own watch. You froze your hand still midair. A familiar ache crawled up your chest, but you swallowed it. I wasn't playing anything, just being polite. You don't have to try so hard, it looks desperate. The words sliced sharper than they sounded. You bite the inside of your cheek, forcing a calm expression. Right, wouldn't want to look desperate in front of my husband. His gaze flicked toward you, then brief but heavy. There was something in his eyes, a flicker that looked dangerously close to guilt, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He adjusted his jacket and turned toward the door. You should get ready. You are already late for work. I thought you liked it when I was late, gives you another reason to call me responsible. Don't twist everything into drama. It's too early for your attention game swine. That word, attention, it always came from his mouth like a curse. You forced a small smile, masking the sting in your voice. And it's too early for your arrogance, Mr. Jones. His jaw tightened. He didn't reply, just reached for his coat and headed for the door. The sound of his polished shoes on the marble floor echoed like a verdict. When the door closed behind him, silence filled the penthouse, the kind of silence that screamed louder than any fight. You stood there for a long moment, staring at the half empty coffee cup he had left on the counter. Still warm, he had made it before his calls for himself, probably, but somehow he had left another cup beside it, yours. Black coffee, no sugar, he remembered. A bitter laugh escaped you. It was always like that, his care wrapped in coldness, his affection disguised as routine. You finished your coffee, quietly slipped into your heels, and walked out. Outside, his driver was already waiting as always. No words were needed to know who sent him, and as the car pulled away, you looked up at the skyline where Jungkook's company towered, sleek, imposing, untouchable, just like him. The elevator door slid open to reveal the sleek glass walled empire of Joan Holdings. Everything was immaculate, polished floors, quiet typing, the faint hum of power that followed your husband everywhere. Your heels clicked softly against the marble, echoing down the corridor as every head subtly turned. Whispers followed, they always did. She's his wife, right? Of course, you got the job because of him. Imagine being married to the CEO and still having to work for approval. You ignored them shoulder straight, steps measured. The only thing colder than Jungkook's office was the way people treated you as if your wedding ring was a stain, not a bond. When you entered the conference room, Jungkook was already there, standing near the window, sleeves rolled to his forearms, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was deep and steady, the kind that demanded attention without ever needing to rise itself. Beside him, Winnie, his secretary, handed him a file, her manicured nails brushing his hand. A second too long, he didn't move away, he didn't even seem to notice, but the small smirk curling on her lips told you she did. You took your seat at the table, setting your notes down in front of you. A few minutes later, Chungu finally ended his call and turned, his gaze sweeping over the team before landing on you. Professional, blank, as if last night's silence and this morning's argument didn't even exist. Let's begin. I have something to propose first, if you will allow me. His brow arched slightly just enough to draw the room's attention. Make it brief, we are short on time. You exhaled quietly and stood projecting the screen behind you. Your presentation was clean, strategic, and bold, a new marketing angle that would save the company millions while modernizing the brand. You spoke with quiet confidence, ignoring the flicker of Chunguk's dark eyes as they followed your every word. When you finished, there was a beat of silence. Then, that's interesting, Mrs. Joan, but don't you think it's a bit ambitious for our current budget? Her tone was polite, the smirk beneath it wasn't. Ambition is what this company was built on, Winnie. A few people hide their smiles, but Jungkook's expression didn't change. We don't make decisions based on ambition, we make them based on data. Your idea lacks numbers, fine, rework it and submit it later. It wasn't the words, it was how he said them. Cold, public, dismissive. You nodded stiffly, your throat tight. Understood, sir. That word, sir, burned on your tongue, but you forced it out anyway. He turned away immediately, moving on to the next person as if you hadn't just been cut down in front of everyone. Across the table, Winnie's smirk widened just enough to make your stomach twist. Hours later, you found yourself sitting alone in the cafeteria, stirring your coffee long after it went cold. From across the glass wall, you could see Chunguk's reflection in his office, standing at the edge of another meeting, confident, composed, untouchable. And then it hit you. The proposal he was presenting, the one flashing on the screen behind him, it was your idea. Slightly altered, polished, but undeniably yours. You froze, heart pounding, a bitter laugh slipping past your lips. Of course you did. Moments later, your phone buzzed a message from Jungkook. Next time, include the data I told you it had potential. Potential? He had rejected you in public and quietly taken your brilliance in private. You wanted to be angry, you should have been. But your chest ached instead because that was his way of saying he believed in you, just never out loud. When you passed by his office later that evening, when he was there again leaning against his desk, laughing at something he had said, you caught only a glimpse before he looked up. Wine, still here? Yes, finishing the report, you said like Tara. Oh, she's such a perfectionist. That's what makes her better than most. When he blinked surprise flickering in her expression, you didn't react, but that small sentence was enough to send your pulse racing. It wasn't affection, but it was something. You turned to leave, his eyes following you silently until the door closed. Outside, the city lights reflecting against the glass walls, glittering and cold. You clutched your file tighter, a quiet promise burning in your chest. You had stopped trying to be seen by him. One day, he had have to look. The office was finally quiet, the kind of quiet that only came after everyone had gone home. You gathered your files slowly, exhaustion clinging to your bones. The day had been merciless. Every whisper, every sideways glance still echoed in your mind. Still only has her job because of him. You had learned to ignore them, but not when they came from his secretary. When Winnie had laughed at your report earlier, you just love attention, don't you, Mrs. Joan? It had felt like being slapped the worst part. Jungkook had been there. He had said nothing. You pressed the elevator button, praying it would be empty. It wasn't. He was already inside, jacket off, sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened just enough to make him look unfairly human. His eyes lifted lazily when he saw you, but he didn't speak. You stepped in anyway, spine straight, pretending not to feel the electricity in the air. The door slid shut with a soft ding. Seconds passed, silence. Then his voice deep, even with that edge that could slice glass. You should stop caring what they think. You blinked, caught off guard. I'm not the one giving them reasons to talk. He looked down at you then, expression unreadable. You mean Winnie? You always let her say whatever she wants. Why should today be different? He exhaled sharply, turning his gaze to the metallic doors. Because today she said something that wasn't hers to repeat, something you started. His jaw tightened. You continued before he could respond. You have called me that before, haven't you? Attention seeker. You made it sound like a joke at first, now everyone uses it. He didn't deny it, didn't apologize. He just stood there, his reflection in the elevator stayed looking as cold and perfect as his real self. You always react too early. Maybe that's why they notice you, or maybe it's because my husband never tells them when they have crossed a line. Silence, heavy, sharp, suffocating. You looked up at him, your voice trembling not with fear but exhaustion. Do you even realize how cruel you sound sometimes? His eyes flicked toward you, and for the first time in weeks, there was something raw in them, something he didn't want you to see. Cruel is safer than honest. The doors opened then, he stepped out first. You stayed behind, heart pounding, trying to understand whether he was protecting you or himself. It was nearly midnight when you finally gave up reworking the presentation. Your desk lamp cast a tired glow over the scattered papers, your fingers trembling slightly as you typed. You didn't notice when Jungkook walked past your cubicle. He paused for a moment, eyes lingering on your hunched figure, but he said nothing, just continued toward his office. You told yourself it didn't matter, that you didn't care if he noticed anymore. Sometime later, you drifted to sleep on your desk, the hum of the air conditioner. When you woke up, your neck ached and your coffee cup had been replaced with a fresh one, still warm, the steam curling upward gently. A blanket rested over your shoulders, his office light was still on. You stared at the faint glow under his door, heart twisting painfully. You don't have to be kind when I'm not awake, Jungkook. You gather your files, heading toward the main office to return a folder. That's when you saw it, a file on his desk. Your name printed neatly across the cover. Your fingers hovered over it, curiosity burning. You didn't open it, you couldn't. But you knew, whatever it was in business because Jungkook Joan didn't keep personal files. The next morning was chaos investors' presentations, tension so thick it could be sliced with a knife. You had spent the night perfecting your proposal, desperate to prove yourself again. When your turn came, you stood confidently, voice clear, hands steady. Every word was sharp, logical, professional, and then when his voice broke through, sweet, poison. You always need attention, don't you, Mrs. Joan? Guess some habits don't change even at work. Laughter, a few mumbled gasps, your chest went cold, you looked at Jungkook. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. You forced yourself to continue the presentation even though your throat burned. By the time you finished, no one dared to meet your eyes. You gathered your papers and walked out with your head high, each step a battle against the tears pressing behind your eyes. Later that night, Winnie lingered by Jungkook's desk, still smudged from her public performance. I didn't mean to offend her, sir. You say it all the time. She just loves attention. He didn't look up from the document he was signing. Say that again. Her smile faltered. You speak out of line again and you will regret it. His voice was calm, but his pen cracked in his hand. Winnie took a step back, swallowing hard. And if you ever bring my wife's name into your gossip again, start packing your things. The door shut behind her, leaving only the sound of his uneven breathing. He sat back, fingers pressed against his temples. He hadn't defended you when it mattered. Now his anger meant nothing. You didn't go home that night. You couldn't. You sat at your desk typing out your resignation letter, every word heavy but freeing. Effective immediately, I resigned from my position at June Holdings. I hope this helps silence the rumors about favoritism. Why in June? You left the letter on his desk before leaving, the city lights reflecting off your tears. When Jungkook walked in the next morning, the office was still. He saw your handwriting, instantly recognizing the careful curve of your letters, and his were tilted. His chest tightened, but his face stayed blank. He folded the paper once, then again, until it trembled between his fingers. You're not walking away from me that easily, Divine. The rain had already started by the time you stormed into his office, the skyline behind him a storm of glass and thunder. Matching, the furry blazing inside you, Jungkook was still seated, his jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. You didn't even flinch when you slammed the door shut, your heels clicked sharply against the marble floor, every step echoing your anger. You couldn't even defend me, not even once. He looked up, eyes unreadable, calm, collected, infuriatingly composed. You don't need my defense. You laughed bitterly, a sound that sliced through the air. Oh, of course, because defending your wife might hurt your image, right? Can't have the employees thinking the mighty CEO actually cares. He leaned back in his chair, jaw ticking. Watch your tone, wine. My tone? You scoffed, stepping closer, voice shaking with rage. You let your secretary call me an attention seeker in front of everyone, Jungkook. Do you know what that felt like? To be humiliated like that, and you sat there silent like it meant nothing. For a second, his mask cracked despairingly, but then he turned away, his voice cold as ice. You don't need my words to prove your worth. If you let a secretary's comment shake you, maybe you are not as strong as you think. You froze your heart tightening painfully. You are unbelievable. A better laugh escaped you. You have spent so long pretending you don't care that you have started believing it yourself. His eyes darkened, his voice rising low, sharp, almost trembling. You think this is about pride? You have no idea what I'm protecting you from. You tilted your head mockingly, protecting me by destroying me in front of your employees. That's your definition of love. He slammed his hand on the desk, paper scattered, his composure shattered for the first time. You think I don't want to defend you? You think I enjoy watching them disrespect you? He paused, breathing heavily, eyes flickering with something raw, guilt, or maybe grief. If I show them you matter to me, why they will use you against me, against us? You stared at him, stunned, but the anger burned hotter than the ache in your chest. You already let them do that. The moment you stayed silent, you gave them permission. He clenched his fist, looking as though he wanted to speak, to reach out but didn't. You exhaled shakily, your tone turning sharp, venomous. You can keep your empire, Mr. Jones, but I won't let you trample my dignity in the process. You pulled a white envelope from your bag and tossed it on his desk, the sound echoing like a gunshot. That's my resignation. You can finally have your peace. He stood abruptly, voice rough. Don't walk away, Wine. You smirked, the pain in your eyes hidden beneath your sarcasm. You should be relieved, Jungkook. No more attention seeker to ruin your spotless reputation. You stepped closer, just close enough for him to feel the tremor in your voice, the heartbreak behind your words. The divorce papers will be on your desk soon. Then you turned, heels echoing in the silence, leaving him frozen behind you, jaw tight, eyes glinting with fury, and something dangerously close to regret. The moment the door shut, Jungkook's mask finally cracked. He sank into his chair, staring at the envelope on his desk. His knuckles widened, his breathing unsteady, and for the first time, the powerful CEO who never flinched in front of everyone looked utterly defeated.